be so much movement too.
It's a mixture of like figuring out how to do not too much, but not do too little.
Hey guys, Bad Snacks here, and welcome to The Sauce Factory. We are a show talking about music production, music tech, lifestyle, vibes, all the good stuff. Talking to a slew of artists, producers, engineers, and musicians from all over Los Angeles. And today I am personally very excited to introduce our guest. She is potentially LA's busiest violinist, with credits with artists like Sabrina Carpenter, John Legend, Coldplay, Christina Aguilera, Metro Boomin. The list goes on and on and on. And then on top of that, she also has this crazy killer solo career, putting out all kinds of EPs that have amassed millions of streams and have garnered the attention of publications like Billboard and the New York Times. And she's putting out new music, so really excited to talk to her about that. Welcome to the show, Yaz.
Thank you so much, Bad Snack.
I'm just so excited to pick your brain for a slew of reasons. I mean, the most obvious being that, like, we work in the same industry, but also kind of similar avenues with the whole, like, violin to producer artist connect. Also, you are definitely going to, like, hold the title, probably for the rest of this podcast, as the guest that I have known by far the longest. Like, literally since childhood.
I think we were 10.
I think we were literally 10. Well, I was thinking about this too, of like, okay, so we're talking about BYSO.
Yes.
Gypso, actually, if we want to go that far back. We're essentially the same age.
Yeah.
So I think it's even younger than 10,
Yeah.
is my guess.
I think I started Gypso when I was 8 or so.
Yeah, me too.
So
That's crazy.
good looks, boo.
That's crazy.
It's a good thing you still like me then, huh?
Oh my gosh, after all these years. No, and I was thinking about this too, just how many, like, I don't even know what to call them, like, because they're like come ups and glow ups and all of like these ups and ups of just like seeing that journey happen for you.
Yeah, Jesse's talking about when I was ugly when I was a kid. I didn't get cute till like college, so I
No,
understand.
that's not true. I mean, we've talked about this before, but literally in the orchestra, like, you know, it's because it's for kids and teenagers, and so it's like a cafeteria, right? Where it's like you kind of find your group of friends and whatnot, and like you were always with the kind of like hot shit kids.
That's crazy because like in high school, I used to eat my lunch like in the bathroom.
Oh my god.
And I feel like that's probably where I found solace was at orchestra rehearsal, because those are the people that I was the coolest out of all of them. You know what I mean? So it just felt like maybe I may have appeared that way there, but generally I was like quite nerdy.
That's so funny. Because also, like, if you think about it, yeah, okay, in general, the average demographic of a kid going to BYSO is pretty nerdy, maybe socially stunted. But also, we had some people that ended up being pretty cool. I mean, like, I think about like Olivia Culpo
Oh yeah.
was in our orchestra,
Yeah.
which is really funny. Like, if you think about it.
I know. Well, so her mom's a violist in the
Right.
BSO.
Right.
And what's funny is that I've actually seen her like twice since we've been in LA.
Oh, wow.
Because she wanted to do some like quartet readings, which is cute. You know, still the same old Olivia. You know,
That's
obviously.
really sweet. Yeah. Anyway, all is to say that it's just been so cool to watch your trajectory, especially because it's like I relate to so much of it because I was also literally like there. So I'm really excited to talk to you about how all of that has kind of transpired into what you're doing now, because what you're doing now is like crazy. On top of that, you just released a single.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is
Godless.
Godless.
I released it on 6/6, my favorite day.
Oh, why is that your favorite day?
It's the Devil's Day. Duh.
You don't need a third 6. You don't need the third 6 to
No.
make it work. That's really funny. So before we get into all of this new stuff that you're working on, I don't want to dwell too much on the background stuff because I know we could like kiki about this for a really long time. But I do want to ask you about your background.
Sure.
So your your mother is Japanese,
Yes,
right?
that's
and
correct.
then your father,
He's from Kuwait.
he's from Kuwait.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you grew up in northern Massachusetts, right?
In a suburb called Lexington. Yeah, that's correct.
Lexington and Concord.
I know. It's where the revolution happened, motherfuckers. They make sure you don't forget it. They have like reenactments every summer, and it's just like, oh my God, a lot of white people.
So that kind of is like my first question is like that already is such a unique upbringing to me, at least, of just like those combination of cultures then enmeshed, or not enmeshed, but surrounded by like white New England. Like, what was that like for you?
Well, I was lucky. I feel like Lexington was a haven for a lot of immigrants.
Okay.
So I definitely wasn't the only first generation immigrant that was growing up there. I want to say our school at the time must have been like 40% Asian, to be honest with you.
Wow.
In that way, I never felt like I looked like a token in any way. That being said, I did feel very different. To this day, even, I don't really fit in a box, right? And I feel like people are taught to think in boxes. So I'm not Japanese enough for the Japanese people. I'm not Arabic enough for the Arabic people. And I'm certainly not American enough for American people. So it's kind of, I've always felt like a little bit of an outsider, like with no place to fully be accepted in a certain way. So I remember feeling that like very early on growing up. But I started playing violin when I was 6. Everyone in my family was really good at something. And so I had to have a thing, you know. My sister was a pianist. My 2 brothers were sports athletes and like very good. Like everyone was at the professional level. And it came time, I was the youngest, and I was like, I better pick something. So I picked the violin. I actually wanted to play cello, but our car wasn't big enough. Yeah, so I picked the violin, which is such an arbitrary
adorable.
reason. I just feel like cello is just swaggier, you know?
Yeah.
But I just went with the, you know, the soprano instrument of the string.
It's the most portable.
Yes, indeed.
I just kind of wonder, like, obviously it's such a huge part of your identity, and I think not just in how you present and talk about yourself, but it's also very much interwoven into all of your art. And I kind of just wonder like how that has influenced the things that you're creating today.
Definitely. I mean, I think just having that background of classical music, it's different from having a jazz background. Yeah. Sometimes I envy a lot of my friends who do have the jazz background, because I think what ends up happening when you have a classical background is that you're taught to think in a box. Just like what I was saying earlier about race, but like even more so, because you're not taught to create your own compositions. You're taught to learn other people's compositions, right? So you end up becoming a very good executor. And then over time, you're like, you know, there are plenty of people that can be great executors, but is that what I want for me? And I think it was in college when I realized like, oh, I don't know if I want to play other people's compositions all the time. Like there felt like there was a lack of like a creative outlet for me. Yeah. And I felt like I had something to say, but I didn't know how to do it yet. And I felt a little behind for sure, and a little confused, because I have like the theory background, right? Like I understand how music is put together. I have a good ear, but at the same time, I know nothing about creation at the time. So you just kind of start, right? And you see what comes out. In the first few years, it's really fucking bad.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I listened to some stuff. I was cleaning out my iCloud the other day, and I had some big files that were like video files from like 6 years ago. And I was just like, oh my God, this is a hate crime. How bad this is.
Because I was thinking about this, because like when you started your artist project, I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, oh, this 100% tracks, this 100% makes sense. And I was thinking like, why is that? When did she actually start doing stuff that would imply this? And then I thought about you did this cover of Firework.
Oh my God.
That
I am gonna kill you. That was from high school.
No,
That's
but I remember
crazy.
seeing that on Facebook and being like, okay, all right, she's trying something different now. Cool.
Different it was.
And so that actually leads me to another question that I had, is like, when you went to UCLA, What was your major? What were you going to UCLA for?
I got in for violin performance,
Okay.
but my father's an academic, so he was like, I'm not going to pay for school unless you learn something real. And I was like, true, you know? At the time, also, one of my siblings got a really bad injury that ended their career. And so I understood the importance of having another avenue. So I ended up also taking a political science major with a focus on international relations.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's a crazy fun fact. Okay, what did you specialize in your international relations?
I liked the most learning about international law.
Okay.
Like, you know, the laws that are different between like even like different parts of the ocean. It's like this is the line where the laws change and all of that. I had a lot of fun learning about that. We obviously did a lot about like the Cold War and stuff like that. Just learning history and trying to figure out patterns, game theory, all that kind of stuff. It was all very new. You know, I did think about like after I graduated, what did I want to do? I considered law school. I did start, you know, studying for the LSATs, but, you know, I just didn't feel like it was going to be the path that was going to lead me to where I wanted to be. So I ended up working as an administrator at a philanthropic firm for like a couple of years.
Okay.
Where I did the whole 9 to 5 thing. Hated the 9 to 5 grind. Like I learned a lot, honestly, from even having a job like that.
Sure.
And I kind of decided, I was like, do you want to go, you know, to this avenue and this lane forever and become a corporate, you know, slave? And the answer was no, not for me. And I got my first session call, I think it was in like 2017 or something, a few years after, or a couple years after I graduated. I got a call from my now colleague. He goes by Johan. He does all the string arrangements in town. It's like 3 dudes who do it in town. He's one of them. And he called me, asked if I could be there for, I think it was an Alessia Cara session. And I was like, oh, sick. I've like listened to her before. So I went, and then I kept on answering his calls. And I think like the first really big one was, funnily enough, like right after I got broken up with on the same day. So I think I was in bed. I was really sad. And then I got a call at like, I don't know, it must have been midnight. And they're like, can you be here right now? And I was like, be where? And they're like, Mike Dean's house. And I was like, okay.
Sick.
And so I went, and it was really cool. It was like the first time I was like in the room with like a really big producer. And I was like, okay, this is fun. Also, funnily enough, like they all obviously smoke rapper weed, right? And like I smoke weed, so I was like, I can hang. And they passed the blunt to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be cool right now. Smoke 1 puff of it, and I like literally straight to heaven, bro. Like I cannot even open my eyes. And I still have to do some recording after that. And like I'm messing up the most simple stuff, like quarter notes. And that was the last time I ever drank or smoked during a session, ever. So I keep it pretty straight edge at work now.
Yeah, that's so real. But like the thing is that there is like that pressure though, especially if you're like, yeah, no, I smoke weed like casually at home all the time. Or I'm not.
No, I do. Yeah.
But
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, but it is this kind of thing of just like social currency in a way.
Yeah, and also like at the time, I used to usually be the only girl in the room. And I think there was a need to feel like I could hang with the boys, you know?
Yeah.
And feel like I could like hold my weight in that way.
Yeah.
And so these days I don't care at all. I'll go into a room and be like, don't look at me. I'm just going to do my thing.
You don't need
to.
But,
you know, beginning, I was definitely just feeling like I wanted to fit in one way or another.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the last time.
That's so funny. So I know we've already been kind of like talking about it a little bit, but I do want to pick your brain a little bit more about the inner workings of like session work. Okay. And, you know, you talked about how you got into it and kind of kept, you know, picking up these calls. But what's your favorite part of doing session work for these kinds of artists?
I would say just every day is fresh, right? I think just that monotonous feeling. I know what it's like to go to that 9 to 5. I have not felt it since, you know? Being able to meet all new people, being able to be in a pretty casual environment where you get to dress how you want. And, you know, obviously there's a decorum that you should maintain in order to be professional, but it's very casual,
Yeah.
You know, I love getting to meet all these people, and I love getting to be part of other people's work because it takes that pressure off the perfectionism that you put into your own work, and you're able to be in and out, but still be able to contribute. And I think that is really like ultimately what the music is supposed to feel like. What all of this is supposed to feel like is that feeling of contributing and doing your thing and being happy with the result. Being able to do it for other people's projects is feels lighter than having to do it for your own. And obviously there are a ton of artists that I've had the opportunity to work with that I have idolized and that I really looked up to. So being able to meet them in this capacity and meet them in some ways like they're meeting me as an equal, not as a fan, right? Yeah. And they're sometimes looking to me for I guess not advice, but like what would work best for their song. And it just feels like, you know, there's respect going into that room.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And so you're very much like tied into the circuit at this point, and you've just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger gigs over the years where I feel like you're now kind of in that like top call. I mean, I was looking at that playlist of like songs that Yaz has played on. I forget the exact name of the playlist, but I was like, God damn, like I actually like can't conceptualize artists that are like much bigger.
No, I don't think.
Like you're really like at you know, kind of like in that pocket of the industry, and you've played the Grammys now several times, I feel like.
Twice, yeah.
That's almost
several
times.
If you consider the performances, because this year I did two artists. Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever kind of felt like you've been in over your head with like kind of like the rise of these opportunities? Like, was there ever a time where you're like, oh shit?
No. Never.
You're always ready.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that pressure feeling. With violin only, not with any other parts of my life.
Interesting.
It's almost like the challenge and then I know that I can do it. Mm-hmm. And I think I feel that way because I know that, like, you know, why wouldn't I be able to do it? So many of my colleagues are able to do it. Why wouldn't I be able to do it? You know?
Sure.
And I think something that I feel very confident about is just generally like my personality. I understand, you know, again, how to be in these rooms without being offensive or annoying or like I know my
lot
place.
Of weed.
Definitely. But also I think, you know, you just have to kind of be able to read a room and read people. Mm-hmm. And I know that sometimes a lot of people that are good at music cannot be good at that.
I kind of wonder about that. Is that something that you feel like you are naturally pretty good at, or is that stuff that you've like learned through experiences, both good and bad?
I've always been a people person ever since I was little. I've always been cracking jokes. But of course, I've learned so much, you know, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, you know, through trial and error.
Okay, so you're feeling like you're pretty naturally good at...
I think so. I'm keen to read the energy.
Yeah.
And I'm keen to not be offensive. And I think that's an important skill to have when you're working with this many different kinds of people. Mm-hmm. Because it's not always the best players that get called.
No.
You know, it's actually the people that the artists don't mind being around, that the artists like interfacing with. And so I do feel like what I lack in maybe some intense technicality that some of my colleagues, you know, have spent hours in their dungeon doing, this is where I excel, you know?
Sure. It just always comes back to, like, are you a good vibe in the studio? Are you a good vibe on the tour bus? Like, are you, like, if you can get through the parts, great. But we don't need all these bells and whistles. And I think especially, I mean, it depends. It super depends. But I mean, for the most part, I feel like in the pop industry, you know.
You're not going to need that level of technicality.
No.
Not to say that I don't have it. I do.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the best violinist in LA. I'm just not.
Well, it depends on what metrics.
Sure.
You know, it's like, yeah, if you're like going 1-for-1 with somebody who's in the LA Phil, I mean,
yeah,
that's hard for
anyone,
hard.
Yeah.
I don't know, just as like an aside, it drives me nuts Like I've been like I don't do session work that much anymore, but like a few times that I have, like you have somebody who like has been given the first violin slot and like yes, they are technically the most proficient person in the room and they're like actually we should do it this way. Actually, I think
Oh
the
God,
dynamic
I
more-
recently actually just had a session just like that. I can't even say on camera what I wanted to do in the moment. It was awful. It was also the same session I walked in and the engineer goes, "Have you ever been in a session before?"
Oh my God.
And she must have been like a 22-year-old girl. And I was just like, in those moments, you're like, "Aw, baby girl, like, you don't
Okay.
have to like play big dick with me." Like, of course I've been in a session before.
Oh my
Bitch, I am the session.
Yeah.
Please.
It's crazy to like also hear it out loud, like of just like, yeah, we know this to be true in the industry, but it's like the amount of like unqualified people.
It actually motivates me because I'm like, if these motherfuckers can do it, why couldn't I? You know, and
100%.
it's unfortunate because a lot of the time it just comes down to timing in the room. You know, like at one point that person that I was speaking of was in a room and maybe provided one idea that made it to a big hit and then became a revered person. They just ran with it. And what I'm also realizing too is that it's confidence. And that's where it ties back to the whole thing about being a quiet person and being sometimes like a little too reserved,
Yeah.
is that it doesn't serve you to grow. Because here are these people, even these artists that are just completely delusional because they're so bad. But they still keep on putting things out and they still are like doing it with a, you know, with a puffed up chest. And people who don't really understand music, like they can't tell the difference, to be quite frank with you, which is sad, but it is, you know, it is the reality that a lot of people can't tell the difference between like mediocre and good. I think they could tell the difference between mediocre and excellent, maybe,
Yeah.
depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like we have to play to that because that is our audience. You know, we're not just catering to our fellow, you know, audiophiles.
Annie, put your makeup on.
So I know you have stories,
Sure.
and I want to extract some of these stories from you. Okay, so starting with, like, who's an artist that you've worked with that you think really deserves the hype? Like, total sweetheart. Great.
Sinead Harnett, hands down.
Sinead Harnett? I don't
Yeah,
think
she's
I
an
know.
R&B singer from the UK.
Okay.
And I actually listened to her quite a bit before I even worked with her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a good feeling when you meet the person and they're really kind on top of being really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think she deserves the utmost praise. She is one of the most lovely people I think I've ever met in this industry.
Conversely, and we can bleep out names.
Okay, cool.
But like, who's a nightmare, or like who's like somebody who just like you're like their reign needs to be over.
Like any EDM artist. No, there was a specific EDM artist that I worked with. We did a performance for at Coachella and we just never got paid. And we all got bamboozled. And when I brought it up to the management, we got uninvited the second weekend. And that was pretty fucked. But at the time, it was crazy because, you know, we were promised a certain amount of money, a wristband. And then we got there. And I kid you not, you know, like the wristbands they sell you at like Party City, the paper ones?
Yeah.
They literally put that on us. And I have a video of my friend Camille like laughing as she's like trying to use that to get into the Coachella campgrounds.
Wait, you couldn't even get into the campgrounds with those?
No. We were actually held up even in a van backstage. Oh, and on top of that, we didn't have any food or water for like 8 hours or something.
Oh my God.
It
oh my
was
gosh.
wild. And then, you know, obviously I felt like I was at the time in the best position to say something to them.
Yeah.
Especially at that point, I had already had 2 like super big credits with like the biggest artist in the world at the time, who is now an anti-Semite, unfortunately. Yeah, so you know, I don't want to platform him. But
I don't know if you saw, but he apologized for it.
oh yeah, he said he wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
But you know, whatever. Just all these people that I work with that are just getting canceled left and right. I don't know if you saw everything with Diddy going on.
I
I'm
literally
just like,
have a question here that says, "Did you actually throw out your Grammy with P Diddy?"
I did.
You did? I saw you. I don't know if it was a post or a story, but I saw that it was like in the trash.
I don't want that juju in my house. Are you kidding me? I feel like that's bad karma.
Godless, driving like I got no problem.
So I want to talk to you about your solo project because you just released a new song on the 6th, which I would assume means that you have more on the way.
Yes, ma'am.
But talk to me about Godless. What is it about?
Yeah, it's a song about being burnt out in your 30s in the city of dreams. It captures the hollow pursuit of success and validation in a world that's obsessed with numbers and how to kind of, keep yourself grounded and also just acknowledging how difficult it is and maybe some coping mechanisms that aren't so great that you kind of go through during that time period of trying to accept that. Yeah. Unless you're part of that 1% of people that just don't do it for very long and get to a place very quickly, I think it's pretty typical to feel this way.
Yeah. And is there a reason why you are leading this next chapter with that song? Like, do you think that theme ties in to the other pieces?
I think generally, so I have like 10, maybe 12. I don't even know at this point, but I have a handful of songs that are basically talking about this transition, this life transition going from, 30 onwards and the changes in dynamics with yourself, dynamics with other people, including friends. And I feel like that's not really talked about much in music. I feel like that we have a lot of love songs. We have a lot of like self-analysis songs, but talking about like different life stages, especially like the life stage after you're like truly an adult. And now you're comfortable being an adult. And what does that look like? And how do things change? Me particularly, something I focus on in this rollout is how relationship dynamics change with my friends. How sometimes being friends with someone for a long time doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't outgrown them or that they're good for you.
Right. I mean, it's like it's very, very rare that we don't outgrow the people that are in our lives.
Yeah.
Because everybody changes. It's just about how compatible those changes are with each other, right? And this kind of subject matter, it's so relatable, but you're right. It's like when it's hard to kind of like point to a singular body of work that kind of like focuses on that. And I kind of wonder how much of this is you trying to relate in this like palatable way to, this kind of greater audience versus how much of it is really coming from you for you.
I would say the majority of it is for me, for my catharsis and closure. For so long, I felt like I'm one of those people, I don't typically let go of things until I'm forced to, and I'm trying to change that. And I can only hope that this kind of stuff resonates with other people, probably in my age range, who can also understand and relate that things really do change once you hit this point in your life. But of course, I try not to make things very esoteric. And that is important to me. My dad always taught me when I was young that, the biggest message is something that gets the most amount of people. And I think him as an academic, like he truly believes in that because he was trying to teach. Yeah. And for a long time, I was actually pushing against that because I wanted to be cool. And I wanted to impress my jazz friends. And I wanted them to see me as an equal in the writing. Yeah. And, I didn't want them to look at me as some like pop princess or whatever. And then I stopped giving a fuck because I was like...
It seems like what you naturally kind of gear towards anyway. Like I was saying with the firework cover, I mean, there's a reason why you gravitated towards covering Katy Perry. You know, just as like a, random example.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have that bone in your body, and definitely not everybody does.
Yeah. And I think once I got over wanting to be accepted by this group of people or looked at as an equal by them, it really opened up a lot of different just things that I wanted to do. Yeah. And like respectfully, why am I trying to impress a group of people that struggles to pay their bills every day?
I was about to say, like, why am I trying to impress the jazz community?
Yeah. But for so long, I feel like that's like the stamp of musical approval, right? And so I had a group of close friends that I was just like, I need to make cool stuff.
No, 100%. But I will say, I feel like in any of these like subgenres of music, there's gonna be people that are like purists.
That's exactly it. Those kinds of people.
Yeah, and it's dead in the water, and it doesn't serve them. And like some of the best jazz musicians I know are also some of the most open-minded. And I think like, you know, it's like, you know, real recognizes real. It's like craft recognizes craft. And the hill that I'll die on all day, every day, is that good pop music is some of the hardest shit to make.
Yeah.
It like it's deceptively hard, and I think that's the part that makes it even like harder, is that you don't think it is, but like to write something so succinct and impactful and catchy that a lot of people can understand and resonate with, that's hard.
Yeah. And definitely I would say I for sure lean on the side of indie alt pop. I can't tell you how precious I am with every decision that I make in my music, like almost to a point where it doesn't serve me.
Sure.
And it certainly doesn't serve the timeline of when these things need to get out. But I am doing everything with intention, and it's not this like bubblegum write a song in an hour type deal. And I think people will hear that.
Is it too late?
You're obviously very hands-on with the production and with all of the writing and stuff. Who else are you kind of working with on this?
So I have my best bud. He officiated my wedding. His name is Taylor. He goes by Taylor from Earth.
We love Taylor.
He is so great and so incredibly talented.
Yeah.
He actually honestly taught me so much of what I know as an artist in terms of the writing, in terms of even like singing technique. He's a big part of Yaz. And I don't think that there would be a Yaz without him, if I'm being quite honest with you. He's just as hands-on as I am with the mixes. He's on every mix session that we do, and he's, you know, listening with a very critical ear. So I'm so lucky to have a collaborator like that, because obviously that's a once in a lifetime thing, to find someone that you really connect with. I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes doing a lot of sessions with different producers can feel like dating. Like going on like
That's why I don't.
Tinder dates or, you know, whatever apps people use these
100%,
days, where
yeah.
it's like you gotta sit, you see if there's a vibe. A lot of the times there's no vibe. And then you're just like, let's do this again. But I'm just kidding. Don't do that again. You know? And so I ended up like finding that a lot of the time, like we just didn't have the chemistry that me and Taylor did. And I was always comparing it to, which is, you know, I feel like there are disadvantages to that, obviously, but I know that what I have with Taylor really works. I know that he understands what I'm trying to do, and I know that we have the exact same taste of what we want it to sound like.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a really hard partnership to find as artist and like producer.
Yeah. No, it's such a gift, and also like I'm a big fan of Taylor's too. I think he's a fantastic producer and writer, and also like kind of a slept on vocalist.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He used to be in like this really big a cappella group that I didn't get into in college, and he has a beautiful voice. You're just like, white boy? Okay.
I know. It is really funny like that. But it's so cool because I think at the end of the day, you're going to get the music that you want out of this project. And that at least in my mind, is like, that's worth everything. Yeah. You know? Because it's like, there are so many artists that don't even have like the vernacular, the verbiage. They don't even know how to conceptualize that. It's like, oh, something's off, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. But you have like a partnership where you're like, no, I'm going to get exactly what I want out of this. So then taking that into this next chapter of music, can you tell us a little bit about the project? Like, are we looking at an album? What are we looking
I think eventually it'll turn into album. I would say I don't feel like I'm a purist enough to subscribe to the I have to make an album mentality. I'm going to do what makes the most sense for the current algorithm, which is going to be
a big EP girly for sure.
So I think what I'm going to end up doing, I think I'm just going to do singles every 8 weeks. Don't knock me if I don't do exactly. I'm gonna aim for that. Yeah. And then at the end, I'm gonna put it on a compilation type album. Yeah. It's called Cherries and Cigarettes.
Oh.
Two things that I love that are very bad for me.
Whoa. Why are cherries bad for you?
I'm just allergic to them.
Oh. Okay, all right. Duly noted.
Yeah.
That's really funny. But I think there's actually something so smart to that strategy, because I was looking back at your colors, EPs, and it's just like that whole rollout was so smart.
Oh, you liked it?
I
Oh,
loved
good.
it. No, I mean, it was so smart. It was so aesthetic because it's like also each one of these colors is like, it's very thematic, but then you can kind of throw it all together as this like larger project.
Yeah. I was having a big issue, especially when I was talking to different labels and stuff. They're like, all the music is great, but it makes no sense together. I think that's what happens when you have a really deep music background is you can kind of do anything because you have an understanding of how everything kind of works and how it's put together.
Yeah.
And I think in a way that ended up becoming a little bit of a block, you know? So I was just like, how can I make music that I want to make without feeling like I have to be like genre agnostic?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, not the word, like
Genre atheist, actually.
yeah. Like if I had to, you know, sit in one genre because I'm actually like very non-committal, like I can't do that. I can't just be like I'm going to make 10 songs with guitar, bass, and drums only. Like, I think my next thing is going to be like super house sounding, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm going to see this one out as like a very alt pop, like very organic sounding album. Yeah. And I think generally this kind of music is also a little timeless.
Yeah.
A lot of like production fads can fade very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I was realizing, especially when I was making the colors rollout, is that I've outgrown a lot of those sonic elements, that aesthetic, so quickly.
Yeah.
But I was very interested in exploring them. And so I'm glad that I got to do that, but I'm also glad that I didn't commit to it.
Sure.
Because I think I'd get too bored if I was kind of held down by one thing. And I think these days it's okay. You could just make whatever you want and see what happens. But I think back in the old paradigm, especially like before TikTok, it was so necessary to like, you know, try and shop it out and see how you can market it and brand it. And for so long I was caught up on that. And now I'm like, I don't really give a fuck. I'm just going to make what I'm going to make.
Have you found like the right team for this project?
No.
Okay.
I'm self-managed. I've been self-managed forever.
Wow.
I think the issue that I've had is I just haven't been able to find someone that makes sense for me. I've found a lot of predatory people that like, you know, want to take a certain cut out of, you know, everything that I do, including my violin stuff for zero work in. And they just kind of want to hop on once the wagon's already running. And I think it has never felt like the people that I have met personally are offering me any more than what I can do on my own, especially because I'm so type A, like, and I worked as an administrator, like all that stuff is easy work for me.
You're like, I know maritime law.
Yeah.
I can literally get this single out.
Yeah, like no problem. Like today, even I had to shoot 3 different looks, working with stylists, going to a showroom by myself, like finding a hair and makeup artist and a photographer and finding this space. Like I did that all by myself. And I'd almost prefer to do it all by myself because I know it'll get done.
Everything you need inside.
There is this myth, especially as the industry paradigm, as you said, like changes, nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to, unless you are just like, you bathe in money.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have the vision, nobody's going to have the vision for you.
I do think that we are going to get to a point where eventually things will kind of go back to what they were pre-social media. I can't imagine that this would be sustainable for much longer, just how quickly things rise and fall and just how unrelevant things become in a week. I just don't think it's natural, like, for us as human beings to want to even stay in that kind of paradigm. I mean, we'll have to see. That was one thing, like, I fucking hate Donald Trump, but I was like, if you get rid of TikTok, bro, That would have been cool. That would have been cool.
I was literally just about to ask you, like, with all of that being said, as an artist who is self-managing and self-promoting and doing all of this, it's an insane amount of work.
Yes.
Just to be clear, it's an insane amount of work. Are you, like, utilizing things like TikTok, or are you kind of just like, nope?
I don't want to. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you, this is also, I think, a change age-wise. I don't want people knowing what the fuck I'm doing. I don't want to be, like, I hate being in front of a camera, actually. I don't know if you know that about me.
Oh, sorry.
No. In this context, it's fine because we're having, like, a conversation.
Maybe iPhone camera.
But imagine, like, just having to do the whole, like, talking to the camera, trying to figure out what's interesting to say, what's
Yeah.
gonna hook people,
Yeah.
promoting your song and trying to get other people to care.
Yeah.
It feels like a part of me that I don't really want to give up. And it also feels very unnatural and cringy to me,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that is kind of the millennial curse,
Yeah.
right? Because Gen Z kids, Gen Alpha kids, they don't care. They're just like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I don't care how people feel about me.
They are arguably also godless.
Yeah, I would say. There's a part of me that just doesn't even want to, like, do that. It gives me a lot of anxiety, even just the expectation of waking up being like, I have to do this.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And there are little phases I go through where I'm like, okay, I'm going to wake up every morning and do it. And it's the worst time of my life. And, like, I have such a anxiety because I actually have no interest in being a content creator. I have interest in making music, and I feel like I was at the very end of that SoundCloud era before it turned into the social media era. And so I kind of missed my opportunity to not have to do that.
It's difficult for everyone to manage. I mean, I saw the most insane post from, like, Dylan Francis the other day. It was really funny. It was very self-aware. But it's like it's humiliating. It
Yeah.
is. It's humiliating for a lot of these artists, and, like, you know, I also very much resonate. Like, I never wanted to be a content creator. But the fact of it now is that if you make a video online, that's regarded as content.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. And you only need to build, like, a little bit of evidence for that to become the definition, which feels supremely unfair because you're like, I do all this other shit. Like, me being on my phone recording this stupid little video is, like, a fraction of my life.
Yeah. And it's a fraction of what I'm capable of,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And so I find myself often in a position where I'm doing the filming and I'm trying too hard to be funny and just trying, you know, kind of putting a caricature of myself, and it feels inauthentic. And I think that's why it rubs me in the wrong way, because not only do I have no interest in creating it, but it doesn't even feel like me.
Yeah.
And it feels like a fake performative thing that I'm doing because I have to keep up with the times.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I will say one thing that was, like, really helpful is somebody was like, it's only cringe until it's working.
Yeah.
Because the people that are, like, posting this content, it's, like, the same kind of content between smaller creators and larger creators. Like, the actual, like, difference between what they're saying or how they're presenting to the camera is actually not that different. It's just, like, the positioning of it. And if you're saying it to an audience of 300,000 people, that's not cringe, even if, you know what I'm saying? And, like, that felt like a little bit liberating. I don't know what the term is, but anything short of that sucks.
Yeah.
Anything short of that, like, you're kind of like, who am I?
Yeah. Last week, our mutual friend Dom, like, pushed me to make, like, at least, like, a few videos a day. And I actually, like, I literally went into a depression.
Ugh.
I was like, I hate this. This doesn't feel like me.
Yeah.
I feel like a failure because I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm putting the camera, I'm like, okay, what interesting thought do I have today? And I'm one of those people, like, I'm funny without like, I can't think about it and be funny.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Right. I like you're like situationally, reactionally.
Yes.
Yeah. Like in like IRL.
I can't create a situation.
Well, you're like not trying to be like a stand-up comic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, another one of my friends said it in a really interesting way. She was like, it feels like you're busking constantly.
Oh my God. That is literally the feeling.
Because also it doesn't even go to your audience.
Yeah.
You build the audience and then where the fuck do they go?
Yeah.
Not on your page.
Floating
that being said, do you have another release on the books? What do you have going on this summer?
I have one song hopefully every 8 weeks. I have another song that I'm trying to get out by my dead dog's birthday. It's about her. Oh my god.
Aw,
You met Gracie.
we
Yeah,
love
she was the
Gracie.
best.
Such a sweet girl.
I wrote a song for her and I did it really good justice. I was really worried that it wasn't going to be like enough to honor her, and it was. It's actually one of my favorite songs on the project.
Aw.
Fuck, I'm being so.
No, you're. I totally understand. No, she's such a sweet girl.
She was with me for 10 years and she saw me through all of my stages of adulthood, you know, and probably was the only one that stuck with me through all those stages. And so she knew like homeless Yaz that had to sleep in, you know, my car, and she didn't see me any differently. You know, she just wanted to be with me and she was always happy, you know?
Yeah.
She knew a version of me that like felt like I couldn't be loved and I only had her because I don't have much family in the United States anymore. So it was just literally just me and her, you know. She was all I had for a really long time until I met my husband. So I wrote a song about her. I'm hoping to get it out by her birthday, which is towards the end of July. That one's on its final mix stages.
It'll be done.
It better be.
It'll be done.
It'll be done.
What's the name of it?
It's called To the Stars.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That song, like literally every time I hear it, makes me cry somehow. And usually I am so sick of my songs by
Yeah.
like the 8th mix. I'm just
Yeah.
like, please get it the fuck away from me. But I'm really proud, and
Yeah.
I feel like I did her memory well in that one. So I'm excited for you to hear it. I'm
Yeah.
excited for all my friends that knew Gracie to hear it, and I think it also just like encapsulates loss generally. I don't think it doesn't sound like I'm talking about my dog. You know what I mean? Even though in some ways I think a dog's loss is painful in different ways because there's no complicated feelings around your dynamic ever. You know, all they did was want to be loved by you and love you, and you were their entire life, even though they were only like a page in ours. You know. The most selfless creatures. I actually don't understand people that don't like dogs. Big red flag for me.
Yeah.
Unless you had like a crazy attack as a child, like there's no excuse for it. Truly.
There's no excuse for it at all. Well, I'm so excited to hear that.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely keep our eyes and ears and hearts open. That's so sweet, honestly. So now is the secret sauce portion of the show. And today we're going to talk about string arranging.
Yes, ma'am.
String arranging, string recording. This is a session that you recorded remotely, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I have the session open here. You also have the session there. Do you want to just walk us through?
Totally. So this was for an artist named Audrey Mika, who makes beautiful ballads. She reached out to me, or her management reached out to me, I don't remember, to make an arrangement for her song. And a lot of the times they give me a lot of, free range. They're just like, do your thing. What I typically do, like in any session, is I kind of first determine like what are the sections that need it. I like to not put strings in the entire song. I feel like that's super OD. Like, who wants to be listening to string, strings the whole time? And so I like to use it as like a lifting feature in like a secondary half of the song. I feel like that way the song grows and progresses. The earliest I usually like to start is verse 2, which is why you see the first marker, verse 2. I usually, work in each section. What I had done for this particular song is I wrote parts out for my buddy. His name is Isaiah Gage. He's an excellent cellist, incredible cellist. And so I just kind of asked him, I was like, are you down to do this? And he is very good at, recording from home. So he did. And I usually have all of my players and myself, I record 3 takes of each line and I just pan them. If I have time and the space, like if I'm doing it at my own home, I like to move around in different parts of the room. I feel like these things, most engineers know this, but, fun little secret sauce is that that's how you make it kind of sound more like a section. What I also do is I kind of change the tone on my instrument. I'll put my mute on. I'll change the width of the vibrato and the speed of it. Play different parts of the fingerboard so that you're getting very different tones. Sometimes I even bring out different violins so that it actually sounds like different players, because you're not going to encounter phasing, obviously, but it's always good to make it feel more like a section, I think, because then it just feels like a really intense quartet, you know? So that's what I did for this. I wrote out Isaiah's part because I wanted something specific from him, but usually how I approach it is I don't even like write out my parts. I just by ear, I kind of play things on MIDI. I have this thing called BBC Orchestra. It's a Spitfire plugin. Great plugin. So I usually play out the MIDI parts first, focus. And then if I like it, I'll end up recording it. So what I don't like to do is like play things and like try them out. I really like to just do it on MIDI first. So I don't feel like I'm wasting my playing time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like weirdly purist, but
I don't think so. I mean, it's also like literally the energy that you're expending.
yeah, and it's a lot more energy
Yeah.
to play my instrument and press record than to just like press R and like hit my keyboard, right? So I figure out the voicings that way first. And, obviously I try to stick to good voicing techniques, no parallel fifths and having, voice leading in each line to make sure there's no big jumps, no parallel movement, that kind of thing. And then once I'm really happy with how the MIDI is sounding, then I'll record each line and 3 of each line. I don't typically mix it since, a lot of these artists are going to be sending out to professional mixers, and those people, like just like I'm really good at violin, like there's no reason for me to attempt, but I do always have like a chain that I like to put just so they can hear what it could sound like. It starts with Soothe 2. It's kind of like a smart scalpel. I like to think of it as pulling down all the harsh frequencies. There's a lot of harsh frequencies in a string instrument, especially because it's resonating on wood through holes, especially with like bow noise and stuff like that. That usually lives in like the 2.5 to 5 kHz zone.
Yeah. It's like a lot of breath.
Yes. And so I want to get rid of that, especially because when you have this many stacks, it's really easy for it to sound kind of nasally. And then obviously I put out an EQ. It's the Pultec EQP. And I feel like it adds some like high-end shimmer overall and makes the low end sound a little richer as opposed to like sounding brittle. I put a compressor on. I put the UAD LA Silver on. It kind of controls all the dynamics like any, compressor would do. And so it just kind of smooths everything out. And then after that, I put Soundtoys Decapitator sometimes to kind of add that saturation and the spice. Yeah, I mean, it's not always necessary, depending on how the arrangement is sounding. But sometimes I like to add it, see if it sounds better. I tweak a lot of these things by ear, too. And then finally, the winner of all winners, Valhalla Vintage Verb, a classic. You cannot beat it.
Yeah.
It just sounds so much richer.
Oh, yeah.
And then fun fact, if you pause really quickly, whenever I have pizzicatos, I actually always keep the MIDI in. It makes it sound a lot fuller.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, and it makes sense. Like, I mean, I feel like pizzicato of all the things to do with like MIDI strings, because MIDI strings can sometimes just sound like so boxy.
They're getting so good. Bro.
Yeah.
I'm about to be out of a job for sure. But.
I don't know, because I saw this and like I heard the cellist and like that was my first question actually I was like, who the fuck played these? Like
Isaiah Gage, baby.
Yeah,
Contact him for all your cello needs. Incredible cellist.
Yeah, no, it caught me off guard because like you didn't mention a cellist at first. I was like, does Yasmin play cello?
Oh my god, no. I wish, right?
Yeah.
My childhood dream.
Oh
But.
my god, no, it's so gorgeous. And I love I feel like this is also very quintessential of like the string arrangements I've heard from you is like really siren-y, glidey things.
It's part of how I play generally. I'm very much of like I like shifting and making sure you hear the slide.
Yeah.
And I do feel like I pick like a formula a little bit. I start with the pads, right?
Yeah.
And then I want some movement. And so I'll put that movement in either like eighth note type things or like something that like kind of oscillates back and forth.
Yeah.
And then I'll have some other like counter melody things kind of go over. But it's a lot of just like trying a bunch of different shit and seeing what sounds good and what doesn't sound good.
Yeah. No, it's gorgeous. Just like, and again, this is without the signal chain.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And then this is with the signal chain. Without. Yeah. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And you can also turn the track on so you can kind of see how it.
I've already made up my mind
Wow.
on my life today, and I know I'll be alright. I wouldn't change anything. I've got everything I need.
Ooh. Is this song released?
Yeah, oh, of course.
Okay. So to say.
It's from like 2021, but it's actually like I was going through all of my string sessions being like, okay, what would be the perfect fit? Like,
Yeah.
which was the fattest boy? And this was one of the fatter ones.
Oh,
so-
absolutely. And I guess another kind of like housekeeping thing is like, you say that you track each voicing 3 times, but what does that look like when you're also like changing like your like the tone take, or you're using a different violin, or you're using a different vibrato? Like, do you also track those 3 times, or are you saying that like you change that up within the 3?
I change it within.
Okay.
And I don't pick like, it's not like always the center is
Sure.
a certain tone or whatever. Like I just kind of,
randomize it.
yeah.
That's really smart. I'm stealing that.
Secret sauce.
No, for sure. Here, I'm gonna play this from the chorus one more time.
Sure.
And I'm gonna just let it play out.
Sure.
The cello lines are gorgeous. Wow. There's so much movement too.
It's a mixture of like figuring out how to do not too much, but not do too little.
And I love how you enunciate the parts without it making it sound like part.
Yeah. It's such a tricky like balance, especially when there's a vocal going on, because your job is not to get in the way of the vocal,
Yeah, that's stupid. So that is today's episode of The Sauce Factory. Yaz, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and catch up with you and kind of talk about some of the stuff that doesn't come up when we run into each other.
I know, it's like years worth of buildup. I'm just like, I've been wanting to ask you these questions for so long. So this was such a delight for me. And as a token of my gratitude of you being on The Sauce Factory, I'm going to share my secret sauce.
Okay, cool,
which
cool.
is literally...
Oh my God, you
My-
made a fucking sauce, bro. This is so advanced.
Yeah, it's a homemade hot sauce, mango habanero. If you would like to follow Yaz, you can check out the links down below. She has a new single out. You should check that out. We'll put that all down below in the description. And if you would like to support the Sauce Factory, all of our social links are down below. All the ways that you can stream this are also down below. And we want to give a shout out to our patrons for the new Patreon that was just launched. So thank you guys, because now we don't have to beg for creatine sponsorships.
Oh God.
Yeah. And that being said, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for having me. Thank you guys for watching. Go listen to my fucking song, please, for the love of God. Good night, motherfuckers.
And that's a wrap.
Radio silence. Thought about selling my soul. Got a blue check, 20,000 a day, paying for metrics, anything for some place. Yeah, I'm godless, too late to give up control.
Check out these fucking Vibrams. What do you even call these?
I don't know.
What model Vibrams?
I don't know. My stylist got them for me. But what I can tell you is that for $30 more a month, I'll show you inside.